with anxiety. Today I'm talking neuroplasticity, and I'm going to be speaking with Nicole Vignola, who specializes in the brain and neuroplasticity and leveraging it so that you can basically be better at achieving what it is that you need to do and to make your life easier and to rewire your brain. And here she is. How's it going, Nicole?
Hi, I actually can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Let me try one more time here.
Weirdly. Yeah, I can't hear you.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, amazing.
Okay, we're
There
on.
we go.
How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Very good, very good. I'm excited to have you on to talk about the brain today. Um,
Yes.
first caught wind of you with your book Rewire, and just teaching people about. You're an educator, teaching people about neuroplasticity, how it rewires, how you can use your brain to help you and not work against you.
Yes. Well, that's one of the biggest things that I do is sort of help people understand their brains that life doesn't feel so scary.
So, how did you get into that?
Neuroscience. I've always been fascinated with the brain, fascinated with behavior, but I was more driven by concrete kind of hardware components of what is going on. Of course, I love psychology, but I wanted to understand the mechanisms of what's happening on at a cellular level, which is
Hmm.
how I ended up studying neuroscience and then going into neuroplasticity studies. So I did my research thesis in plasticity, so looking at the balance between excitatory and inhibitory neurotransmitters and how they essentially communicate at the level of the synapse. Pretty nerdy stuff. It was
Yeah,
fun.
that's yeah. I love nerding out. Good session of it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, we have the science base, and I'm sure you encounter this just like me, where you have the science and you have the granular pieces, but then you have application in real life, and some
Hmm.
of it translates, some of it's nice to know, and but you can't really actually make it doesn't help your efforts.
Yeah.
Whereas on the other side, there's components and there's implementation and how to get it to work, which is usually more of a functional change. So I guess my first question, because I'm always pondering this too, is what about those smaller changes on the smaller level without using medications can we leverage to make changes? Like what strategies can we use to make those changes without using outside, chemicals or treatments?
Give me an example. Sorry, I'm not sure I
So
understood the
like I
question.
guess I guess through so we know that the neurotransmitters, when there's imbalances, when they're working perfectly, it allows us to leverage neuroplasticity. It allows things to change and for us to improve our habits. So how do we use habits and lifestyle changes and, tangible efforts as opposed to some type of medication regimen to improve our
Oh,
neuroplasticity?
medication. Sorry, I heard meditation, so I was a
Oh,
little
yeah, well,
confused.
no, 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 medications.
Yeah, no, yeah. So I mean, there's an interplay for sure, but I would say that we can change so much with our habits, with our behaviors. And one of the things that usually holds people back is that I think we sometimes put too much emphasis on the end goal, and we don't really pay attention to how far we've come. So a lot of the times when I'm working with people, I'll sort of say to them, well, they're always kind of berating themselves for not being where they want to be. But when we
Hmm.
sort of zoom out and look at how far they've come, they start to realize all the small incremental steps that they've taken towards becoming a different person, or having different habits, or creating a different identity around particular things. I'll give you an example. People that want to eat better and exercise and look after themselves predominantly have an attached a different goal outcome, which is maybe to lose weight or gain weight or change their body composition, but it's the identity part that they need to change to get to that as a byproduct. And
Hmm.
when we sort of zoom out and have a look at all the changes they've already made, instead of thinking about the weight goal, for example, they
Hmm.
start to see how they've already started to take these small steps. Does that answer
Hmm.
your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you're saying that, and I use that as well. The component of goal setting obviously is critical and it is important in different ways, but it can also work against you because a goal is always ahead of you. You're never
Uh-huh.
actually at a goal because once you achieve a goal, there's a new goal. So you
Yeah.
can, in a sense, you can always feel that you're behind.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look into backward thinking, where you're reflecting on, I was there and I'm here now, it's much more encouraging, and it's a much better barometer for change. I use that with patients and people in pain all the time. It's like, I want to be completely clear, completely painless, thriving.
Hmm.
Well, if you, instead of, setting that goal and always measuring towards that, if you look, well, yeah, I used to have a 10 out of 10 pain and now it's a 9, now it's an 8.
Uh-huh.
That's the objective reality.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you a little example actually that I just got me thinking. I've been trying to do handstands for about 6 years, and every sort of year I would try it. Now I'm really good. And
Hmm.
someone actually messaged me the other day saying, "Oh, what's your training plan?" And I wanted to reply. I haven't replied yet, but I need to get back to it. It's actually just reminded me. I dropped the plan and just committed to doing it 3 times a week with no plan, and
Hmm.
now I can actually do handstands rather well.
Right, right.
But because I was for so long had this goal of doing handstands, but almost kind of like it was too big almost, and
Hmm.
I wasn't closing the gap between the actual application of it and just the
Yeah.
story that I was telling myself about wanting to do this thing.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's so like with exercise, it's the same thing where sometimes if it's harder, it's almost like a mental shift that you make, I guess. So if you're saying, I'm going to get in shape, so the thing that I'm going to do is 3 hour workouts a week,
Yeah.
45 minutes each, right? So that's what I do. And if I skip that, I didn't do it. Versus if you had the ability to say, like, every now and then I bang out some push-ups, every now and then I run down the hall for 5 minutes, every now and then, this is just part of my identity. I just do this as I go. That's
Mm-hmm.
actually changing who you are versus like, I need to, it's the 3 workouts.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, I agree. I think that a lot of people have to change their identity, but also their beliefs around exercising as well. I work with a lot
Hmm.
of people who maybe think that they're not good enough to be somebody that exercises because the wellness industry has also kind of made this exercise as a luxury and for the elite, or only the good looking people get to do it. And that's what I see a lot in my community.
That makes a ton of sense. Um, when it comes to, the population I work with, which is, people in pain, trying to get out of pain, you know, the nervous system, it works in so many different ways to either keep you in that pattern or to
Hmm.
assist you to get out of it. The emotions is one component of it, of just the fear based, kind of that goal setting piece again. Am I
Yeah.
ever going to be able to go on vacation again, like without that pain? Am I going to be
Hmm.
able to enjoy, watching TV without those headaches coming? Why am I getting different opinions from different doctors? Like, why isn't this going away? This is all amping up your emotions. And then it's kind of shifting you to more of a fight or flight state, which then has a downstream effect where everything starts getting sensitized and pain and all that. And then there is simply the hyper focus. Like, maybe you're not in an emotional state, but you keep thinking about it, where it's like, does it
Hmm.
hurt
Hmm.
now? Does it hurt now? Yeah, it hurts now. And you're just sending signals and signals and signals. Um, and then so you have the emotions, you have the awareness. And then in my case, it's trust with the body, where, okay, my neck hurts when I turn this way. Um, a lot of people think it must be just a joint or a muscle that's really tight, but really, if there's a
Hmm.
past injury or a bad memory toward turning that way, the body is protecting you. So it's actually
Yeah.
not letting you do that. But
Yeah.
so you assume there's a restriction there. So between the trust, between the just focus and the emotions, these are the ways people get held back. And what I like to do is get people to understand which one, because just like anything else, you have to identify, everyone's different. So there's different factors that hold people back, and that there's different strengths for people as well. So it's like, let's identify the number one thing that if we address this, it'll be the biggest lever to pull to get you to move forward. So is it more the emotions right now? Is it more of you're thinking about it all the time? Is it that your body, you haven't built that trust with the body? And then like we hit that one and move forward. Do you find those types of like nuances that impact people's neuroplasticity as well, or different ones?
100%. I just want to say as well that I agree. The sound's not great coming from your side. And I saw a couple of people saying that. I don't know if your mic is kind of muffled behind something.
Okay, thank
Um,
you. I'll try AirPods and see if that works better.
okay, cool.
Yeah, but I can still hear you in the meantime.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so yes, no, the nuances I think are really great. And I'm actually really curious to hear what the majority of the answers are that come from you. But it's true. So we have I don't know if you work with kind of emotional integration, but we've got very specialized areas in the brain, predominantly an area called the insula, which you'll probably know about, but for anyone that's listening, It's responsible for integrating bodily sensations, but emotional sensations as well. It's kind of like I kind of explain the insula as like one of those when you go, when you've got a post office and then they sort it, like a sorting office that has to send packages out, and it kind of decides where everything needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what the insula does. Now when you have emotional awareness and you've also got mind body awareness, it starts to refine the sensations that are going through the center, so that this area of the brain can distribute those sensations more accordingly, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that is why nuance is so important, because when you start to become nuanced and you start to be able to label things more effectively through naming them, or
Mm-hmm.
through being able to gain that emotional awareness or emotional intelligence to be able to discern between, oh, this is actually emotional, or no, actually this is a protective mechanism because I don't want to turn my neck. Even just that in itself is already
Mm-hmm.
refining that part of the brain, which has
Mm-hmm.
communications with the frontal cortex, which allow you to discern cognitively what it is that you're thinking and feeling. But it has a whole sort of bottom down regulatory control as well, that's helping the body now adjust to different sensations as well. So it's a
Mm.
bi-directional relationship.
Yeah. So I can actually relate to that as well, with my population. So I like to tie like emotional intelligence to physical intelligence. Kind of like you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, people, if you can't name what's going on, then your efforts, you may, first of all, have your efforts going in the wrong direction. It's also
Mm-hmm.
scarier. There's more of an emotional involvement because you don't understand the situation.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a physical awareness, intelligence as well, where if you can understand, once someone gets educated and understands, okay, this is happening because it's my nervous system. This is happening
Yeah.
because there's tension here. My pain is coming to this area. You can dial in a lot better and then lower all that. And what happens
Exactly.
with the nervous system and just the homunculus and just the representation of your body in your brain, generally, if someone has pain in one part of the jaw, or one particular part of the body, let's say the jaw, the longer that time goes on, that map gets a little bit fuzzy, kind of to your point. And so now it starts saying, okay, something's wrong down there. We'll send the sensation of pain, and maybe it starts sending it here too, and here too, and here too. And you start saying, okay, wow, so I'm starting to have problems in all these different areas, which then sets down that chain reaction of the emotions, of the focus, of the hyper focus. Um, when in reality, it's just your brain is losing that mapping. And again, kind of to your point, one of the ways to bring that back is actually to start moving through, in my case, what I do with people, above and below the area. So let's actually move the shoulder. Let's understand the information coming in. Let's move the neck. Let's move the jaw. Let's tilt. And it starts remapping because you start understanding this movement's okay. This one kind of hurts. You start re-giving it more information to then rebuild that map so that now you can identify what's going on, and you see the pain shrink and it gets very localized, and then you can have more directed strategies because you know exactly what's going on. But what happens is people are in pain, they don't know what's going on, they don't want to move, and then that lack of movement, there's not enough input going in there, and so then you start losing that mapping. um, so it's just very similar in my world to what you're experiencing as well. Hmm. 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 Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm curious if you kind of see this as well. Just an example that I like to give is I remember when I was younger, we had a dog and we tried to put one of those electric fences around the yard. And we put the collar on. If they go to the fence, they get a zap, which no one judged me for this. This was my parents. No, but so she got zapped a couple times, and then she was so confused. She sat in the middle of the yard and she would not move because she had no idea what was going on. So, and that's what I see in people as well. Like you try a couple efforts. I'm going to try to fix this with this. Oh, that didn't work. That caused pain. Okay, I'm going to try this. A couple times of failures and the pain hitting, you don't want to do anything because you're so scared, and then that starts worsening things. And I'm curious if, like, when you're working and educating with people who are trying to solve this problem, do you kind of see that? I don't, it's not analysis paralysis, but it's like in another sense that type of behavior. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Right, right, right. Some sometimes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, sometimes no, but you do need to hit that point as well, where you just take a shot. You something has to change. Again, talking about the nervous system, sometimes it just needs a new input, and that can pay its dividends. I've seen you talk about how, like, overthinking, like, you know, that a common thing is like not to overthink things, don't overthink things, but how do you actually do it? Can you elaborate on that? Because I saw you had a post on that. Sure. No, no, no problem. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, no, I was saying about how, with the overthinking, like if you're, yeah, you're saying it's like an integral part of your system with the default mode network. Yeah, yeah. I find that overthinking gives you control because it's almost like you're doing as much as you possibly can to analyze the possibilities around the situation and what could go wrong and what could not go wrong. And I usually tell people that that's something that is very beneficial in the beginning, right? So, well, I guess as soon as you put the word over in, then you're already past the threshold. But thinking a lot about it in the beginning is very important because you do need to go through pattern recognition. But but there is a point of no return. And once you hit that point of no return, now you're just driving in whatever the pattern already was with no new information. So it's just a wasted effort. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Mm. Ah, okay. I see. So you're changing the reward basically. Yeah, that's great. Now, with the default mode network, my understanding is that it feels safe in you not changing the identity around who you are. Is that correct? In a sense? So it's always trying to steer, is it trying to drive you back to, even if you're in a detrimental state, that detrimental state is almost like familiar and it wants to like drive you back to it? Yeah. Hmm. Mm-hmm. 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 Mm. 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 Wow. Wrong hypothesis. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's the current truth. Right, yeah. Yeah. Well, I said, look, I said, as soon as you say the word overthinking, you're already past the threshold. So I was saying like, I don't even remember what I said, but a lot of thinking, I think it was something like that. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
Have this obsessive type checking up on things, like wanting
Mm.
to look people up, or obsessive over their exes or whatever. And in the beginning, that's fairly normal. But then what happens is, I actually had a client who said to me that she's been basically checking up on her ex-boyfriend's new partner, and then they've now split up for like 5 years. She
Hmm.
still does it. She
Wow,
just is like still
wow.
check, because it's
Yeah,
become
yeah.
such a habit that every day she's like, I need to check on what she's doing. And I'm like, that
It's
is
like a reality
crazy.
TV show.
Right? I
Yeah,
mean, I
yeah,
say crazy, but it's not that crazy. I can see how that would happen.
yeah.
And it was almost like
If
this
you
this
don't
kind
make a
of,
change, if you never put that.
it just became a thing. Like, she wasn't even emotionally triggered or anything by this person, and she didn't
Right.
care about the ex anymore either. It was just this habit that had become a thing. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
her name would be at the top of the list, so she'd just check
Oh
and,
my
oh,
God.
what's
Yeah,
going on
yeah, yeah.
today? But
Yeah.
that brings me to the point that I think, for her to let go of that, it was kind of like this emotional pain of having to say goodbye to something that she was so used to.
Hmm.
And that reminds me of people that have chronic pain. I don't know if you have experienced this, but I know that some people that don't have chronic pain anymore, they almost kind of not yearn for it, but they're mourning it in a way, because it was such a
Yeah.
part of their identity to begin
Yeah.
with.
Yes. No, there is something to that. And I remember first recognizing that, thinking to myself, like, that cannot be true. Like that
Mm,
it goes against everything that is just integral to people and progress. But when all of your systems and relationships and like wherever you are in life, I always thought this, wherever you are in life, let's just come up with an arbitrary number, but there's like let's say like there's a 100 or 50% better and a 50% worse from that level that you're at.
Okay.
So if you're riding high and things are going great, you have a 50% plus and a 50%
Okay.
minus from that level that you're at. Whereas if
Okay.
you're all the way at the bottom, you still have from that bottom the joys and the 50% plus, which is joy above that, and the 50% minus where the downs from that. Whereas like
Okay.
the person who's riding high, their low is still higher
Yes.
than your, but it doesn't matter because it's all relative.
Yes.
So if your whole lifestyle is connected to being in chronic pain, you still have the joys and the lows from there. So it's it's not it's not so terrible that there's still reason to want to stay there because you're still going to find, you see where I'm going with this,
Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
you're still going to find those hits and those dopamine hits there. But when you disrupt that, you don't even know where the new highs are going to come from because you're like you're resetting the baseline. And so, and that's for anything in life. That's why
Yeah.
people can be so averse to change.
Yeah.
And that's why I like, it's so hard sometimes probably to go from like the restricted to the growth mindset too, because it's like you have to now make this major change. But it's just interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the things that I teach my clients, and I'm hopefully teaching my audience, is that it's about teaching yourself to be malleable through different states. And if you've got that as a basis, if you understand that if stress occurs and you can recover from it, then all of a sudden you are more equipped. That's the epitome of resilience, right? And so all of a sudden you can now navigate change a lot better as well, knowing that you can shift from one state to another with efficiency.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that like what you do, like education is that first step because awareness, I guess, is that first step because a lot of times, again, going back to how the conversation opened up, if you're not giving that new input, that new information, you just kind of stay stuck. The everything gets cloudy. You don't know what's forward, what's back, like that emotional intelligence
Yeah.
is just, it's too low for you to make that progress. So it's like the first thing is educating to like raise that understanding.
Yeah, and I think it gives people hope. When you have understanding, you start to see that there's a way out, whether it be rumination, whether it be chronic pain, you start to see that there's an alternative. And sometimes people forget that that is an alternative at all. So
Yeah.
even just that hope kind of, I think it's the thing we hold on to, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I could talk about this all day with you. We definitely we should do this again with a maybe even a more niche topic within the topic itself.
Yeah.
Like maybe we could just figure out something that we hit on to go even deeper on.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I would love that.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Um, so for me, I'm working with people with chronic pain. I'm using the body, the muscles, the joints, how that produces pain and dysfunction and symptoms,
Yeah.
but also understanding that the nervous system also controls that feeling. Like everything gets relayed to the brain, and the brain decides what to do with that information. Are you going to feel
Yeah.
pain? You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel anxiety,
Yeah.
etc. And that's kind of like my main mission. And so, would you say that your mission is to bring? Can you state it yourself, please? Like who you help and kind of what your mission is?
I mean, well, so I would say that it's explaining the brain. I became quite popular because I was explaining everyday topics to people back in 2021, I think it was, that I started my account. At 22, it kind of boomed
Nice.
because I was explaining things like breakups and overthinking, and all of a sudden there was a tool and a mechanism. People love a mechanism. They want to understand the tangible reasons as to why they behave the way that they behave. I would say that my current mission right now is I'm writing a second book called Mental Currency.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's the basis that we have a finite amount of cognitive resources on a daily basis, mental resources. I said that cognitive. And so a lot of the time is, people berate themselves for not doing the thing or being a particular way, but they never really take into consideration the metabolic cost So it's costly to actually move from one train of thought to another because it actually requires ATP. It requires neurotransmitters to be released from different synapses and communicate with other areas of the brain, and neurovascular coupling, meaning that, blood flow needs to go to different areas of the brain. And so when we look at people who have depression, for example, we have these things called energy landscapes. We basically measure the brain's activity and we get to determine where there are peaks and troughs, predominantly troughs in the brain. And what we see is in this landscape, we've got people with depression that have these very deep troughs. We call them attractor basins, and they essentially pull your train of thought in. So it's not just mentally hard to come out of it, but actually metabolically costly to come out of that train of thought.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm really passionate about at the moment. Is
that sounds like a great book.
Yeah, so that's what I'm really excited about. But essentially, I want to help people understand the metabolic and the hardware component that is their brain, and then the psychology follows.
Yeah, because again, it all comes down to understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
The first step.
Yeah.
Well, listen, this was great. We have to do this again, like I said. Thank you for joining me.
No, thank you. I mean, I have one question actually, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
My friend was just down on the weekend with a migraine.
Yeah.
And well, she has a couple of thoughts around. She's an immunologist, so she's very well versed with science. She's a scientist herself. But
okay.
Is that a chronic pain situation, or?
I mean, so you can consider it chronic pain if you're talking about migraines because it's a recurring issue over and over again. So it's not an acute bout where, I hit my head, I had a headache, it got better. It's a recurring bout. And so I try to be careful with throwing around the term chronic because again, what does that do? It ties it to an identity.
Yes.
And so you don't want to start using that term, but anytime something is recurring, we're trying to understand, again, going back to that scientific hypothesis, because that's how I work with everybody. It's, listen, I don't have all the answers. We're gonna collect the data, figure out what's the most likely thing that's going to help you, and we're going to test that. And once we're done with that, if it fixes you, great. If it doesn't, check to that box, move on to the next one. So even we can say migraines, but we could even define it as just, head debilitation or pain in the head region, which can come with other symptoms. We've established that. Now let's understand the cause. Is it a true migraine? Is it coming from the neck? Is it coming from the jaw? Is it a stress and mental health situation? Once we start getting better information on that, we can better start diving in there for strategies. And then we start making it less chronic because usually it's just you're not identifying the correct treatment. And so you're in a chronic state. But once you identify the right treatment, it stops becoming that. So it's not a forever thing. Chronic is not a forever thing. It just means like your inability to have broken that to this date.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, she just came out of a gnarly relationship, so I would imagine it's also probably linked to that.
Yeah, it can 100% be linked to that. But, there's a lot to consider. There's like a 40% overlap with migraines and neck issues that cause headaches along with jaw issues as well. So if a lot of people say I have migraines because their criteria is it was a really bad headache and I had to stop what I was doing. But that can also be a headache coming from another region that was just really bad. So we have to first be able to identify, better diagnose and then kind of dive in for those treatments. So it's kind of my thoughts around that piece of it.
And, it just got me thinking that I love what you do, because I think when people think of migraines or whatever, the immediate thought is to go to a neurologist or a doctor, which of course do that as well. But there's so much of that mind-body integration that people don't take into consideration. And I actually, even just thinking of myself, I mean, I've never had a migraine. I mean, I had one once. I wouldn't think to go to someone like you, but actually, of course, I should go to someone like you. So
no, exactly, it's true. But the thing is, like, once when it hits a certain severity and you need to start incorporate.
Sorry, someone else.
Okay. When it hits a certain intensity and you start needing to get in medications or injections or things like that resolved, it does come to that point, or if there's red flags and different signs that none of this is very common though. Most people are just in pain, and it's just about how do we start identifying again first. Is it more of the nervous? We know it's nervous system and body, just body for lack of a better term. Let's first just figure out which one it is first and just hit with those strategies. Let's just get you some wins, and then we can start going deeper. So it's like, it's I don't want to use the word fun, but it's a very interactive rewarding process to start solving
Yeah.
the puzzle of
Yeah.
time, which is just, I'm working with clients. I'm sure you have the exact
Yeah.
same sentiment.
And it puts people in control. It's
Yeah.
like that problem solving, which puts you back into, ventral medial prefrontal cortex activity instead of limbic system activity, which then exacerbates the pain, right?
And
But
then
when,
is that having more dopamine release and like more of that well-being feeling because you're problem solving?
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
we're then
dopamine, but
motivated. Yeah, you'd
yeah.
be motivated, but predominantly when you can name a feeling or an emotion or something accurately, you recruit a very small part of the brain called the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, and that's a very specialized area which kind of snaps you out of that limbic type thinking that keeps you in that ruminative state or may trigger a pain byproduct, because we know that emotions, fear, and anxiety can all trigger pain as well. So as soon as you get someone in that problem solving mind, you're quite literally recruiting a very different part of the brain, which is very, very interesting.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. I think that brings us full circle. I have to jump off now. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Thanks everyone for participating, and sorry about my audio issues. Next time I will make sure to have different headphones.
No, solutions, not problems, right?
There we go. All
Thank
right.
you. Thanks for having
Nicole.
me. Take care.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye-bye.